Hey you, it's Sabrina and this is Stylish and Sustainable. If you're new here, I am a yoga teacher, essential oil nerd, and earth lover, and I started Stylish and Sustainable to educate women about how to live sustainably in a stylish way. This week, our guest is Claudia from the Vegan Soap Company. Claudia lives in England, and she is starting the Vegan Soap Company actually while she's going to university, so she's pretty much Superwoman if you ask me. You are going to love her. She is so endearing, and it's not just her accent, I promise. So, without further ado, here is Claudia. Hi, Claudia. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Claudia, you are joining us from England, right?
Yeah, I am. Where are you based again?
I'm based in Seattle.
Oh, wow.
Claudia and I have been laughing because it was kind of tricky setting this up with the time difference.
Yeah, it is. We've done it though.
Tell me about your sustainable life story. I know that everyone kind of has that turning point, that moment where the light comes on and you realize that everybody's got to start living differently if we're all going to live together in a happy, healthy world. So what was that moment for you? What was the final straw that made you realize that we all need to live more sustainably? And then I would love to also know, what was the first thing that you changed about your lifestyle?
Yeah, I think for me, it wasn't really ever like a final straw. I think just throughout my life, as I've grown up, I've kind of realized more and more the importance of being sustainable and how that affects you in different areas of your life. Because obviously, there's so much to consider, and every single part of your life has got elements that you can kind of improve to make more sustainable. And I think it's just I've gone through and kind of the areas that I've begun to do that and have just started to expand, if that makes sense. But yeah, so it's probably the first thing that I did was just be vegetarian and then vegan more recently, and that's kind of like the biggest area that I'm sustainable in, I'd say. And then it just kind of develops from there, and I've been very lucky to have people in my life that are also kind of very environmentally conscious, and that is really helpful for kind of questioning my own sort of behaviors almost, and what you buy and how you use resources and everything, and then implementing some suggestions from other people. And yeah, I don't think there was really ever like one moment that I thought, oh, I've really got to start doing something. I think it's just kind of been a gradual thing. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that you went vegetarian and then vegan. I think that we all kind of have to have our own first steps, especially getting into living sustainably. Whether it's something little like only eating organic produce or composting before we do something big like going vegan or plastic free. Those are huge life overhauls, you know. I know Cooper and I, my fiance and I, could never have gotten to the place where we are, which is predominantly plastic free, if we hadn't gone to the first step of cutting out those what we call bad bags, the mix of aluminum and plastic bags that are not recyclable in any type of recycling facility or compostable or so on and so forth. Taking that first step for us of just kind of cutting out all of the snacks that were in bad bags, which is a big step in and of itself, just like any step is big in and of itself, really helped us to transition to the plastic-free lifestyle that we live today. And I don't think we could have done it without that first step.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're definitely further along in the sustainability kind of journey. I'm yet to kind of make that commitment. For me, it's just kind of been like smaller changes where I can. And obviously, that's a great goal to get to, and I hopefully will. But yeah, I think you've got a lot more kind of experience in that, and I think that's great in this whole podcast for just trying to help other people learn, because I think it's hard for people when they're just starting out to kind of get their head around everything.
Thank you so much, Claudia. That means a lot coming from you. And honestly, it has been so wonderful growing into this and getting to know everyone in the movement. So my next question is, you live in England, and actually, so far, all of our guests have been from abroad, and I think it's really interesting to hear about how different countries are handling the environmental crisis right now and the different policies that they're instituting. So I would love to hear what it's like living in England, and if you feel like your country as a whole is starting to make a shift to a more conscious, earth-friendly living, or if it's a really slow transition. How do you feel? Do you feel like it's really hard to live sustainably in England, or is it really easy?
Yeah, sure. I think probably it's definitely like a growing sort of movement in the UK, and there are more people than there ever have been more conscious of that. Um, but I think obviously we've still got a long way to go. I don't know if you've heard about our like plastic bag scheme, where we started a few years ago charging 5p per bag, and then I can't remember the exact statistic, but as a result of that, like the usage of plastic bags has really gone down. So it's just small changes like that the government and businesses have worked together on that have been really successful, which is great. Other than that, like I guess the actual packaging in the UK is probably a really big issue in all supermarkets. Like it's really hard to find something that is sustainably packaged, and that's kind of one of the reasons I started my business. But yeah, I guess in the kind of fruit and vegetable side of that, that's improved. But then I saw in the news the other day about how that might not necessarily be a good thing, because then there's obviously more wastage of food because less of it can be eaten and it goes off sooner. So it's kind of trying to find a balance and in like using innovation to come up with a solution to all of that. So I think it takes time, but on the whole, I think it's not that hard to do it in the UK if you kind of it's the same with anything, I guess, if you put the research into it, into finding out where you can shop that is sustainable, and you know which brands are kind of they've got a good process behind the products. So it is doable. I'm not sure how it compares to other countries, but yeah, it's definitely not impossible.
Claudia, that is actually really interesting, and it sounds very similar to the States, actually, in some senses. Before we dive into talking about the vegan soap company, I want to take a quick break to thank our sponsors. I love reading, and I really always have, honestly, but I am so busy that it's really hard to find the time to read, and I'm sure that you guys feel that. Especially because, honestly, when I do have time to read, I'm likely reading my textbooks. While I try to keep multitasking to a minimum, listening to audiobooks has been a great way for me not only to engage in stories that I love, but also actually to learn. Audible has great books on meditation, some guided meditations that are fantastic, and some awesome books on sustainable living, like The Zero Waste Home by B. Johnson. Audible is offering you guys a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/stylish and sustainable and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening today. It's that easy and special for my listeners. Go to audibletrial.com/stylish and sustainable to get started today. So now that we're back, I want to hear all about what inspired you to start the vegan soap company.
Oh, thanks. So yeah, just for everyone out there that probably doesn't know, so we make soap at the moment, and we're going to do shampoo bars and other cosmetics, and it's all vegan, and it's all packaged in kind of the most sustainable materials we can package them in. So for like our soaps, we wrap them in cellulose. I can't even say that, cellulose film, um, which is biodegradable, and then they're all in like recycled boxes and recycled stickers and tissue paper, all of that. Because we didn't like that's just a big thing for me. I don't want to add to the problem. So I figure if you can use recycled things, then you're not kind of contributing new materials into the system. But yeah, so why did I start it? I really struggle to find products, especially in like hair care, that hasn't been tested on animals, and that's like such a massive thing for me. And I know there obviously are brands out there that are doing the same thing as us, but I just thought I would start one, and it kind of has more like quirky flavors, not flavors, scents, um, than other people. But yeah, I've forgotten the question now. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And you totally pretty much answered it, why you started it. And I think I would love to ask that, we have talked so far kind of about packaging and it's really important, but you also said that you were vegan. And I would love for you to explain to the audience what your reasons were for going vegan and why it's important to buy vegan body care products.
Yeah, so I see there's like three main reasons for being vegan, and that's your health, it's the environment, and it's animal welfare. And for me, the biggest one when I was making that decision was the environment, because it's just the amount of land that is used for like wholesale, not wholesale, the large scale, animal production that we've kind of built up over the years. I think it's something like 70% of land or something. But to reduce your carbon footprint, if you by going vegan, you reduce your food footprint by about 73%. And I just thought like that was a kind of easy change for me to make and to have that impact. And I think in terms of like hair care and everything, I think as long as there are options out there that don't harm animals, I don't see why you wouldn't go for that. Um, Obviously, other than quality, but like I just like to think that I'm just providing another option for people, because I know myself there's kind of hard to find those options. It's the same with the food kind of. I guess you just the more options there are that are vegan, the more likely people will see that it's kind of a viable lifestyle. And I think that's the same in cosmetics. So if I can provide loads of products for people and they like them, then that's great. It's just helping them kind of become the most sustainable version of themselves they can.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think you're so right about how making it more accessible to people makes it easier, and then people are more willing to take it on. Because right now, it is a little bit overwhelming. And you totally, like you said, you have to do so much research to get there that people like you starting companies like this really allow people to make the jump that people like us have had to make very slowly and kind of crawl through the muck and mud of all of the different choices and decisions. Building a bridge across that for other people is kind of what we're doing here, and it's so exciting. So you make these body care products, and I know right now you guys are doing soap and you have lots of amazing aspirations, and I'm excited to hear more about all of your aspirations and your products. But I would also love to know, what are some of the ways that you currently reduce your waste when it comes to body care products? So what shampoos or hand soaps or moisturizers, etc., that you're using that you try and cut down on your waste, and what the areas are that you feel like you still are kind of creating waste, kind of having a hard time cutting that out.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely not perfect with it yet, but I think a lot of the time I like look up kind of homemade recipes for alternatives to stuff, whether it's like cleaning products or using the soap that I'm actually making. But I think I definitely still have waste and kind of the the shampoo and conditioner. Sometimes it is easier at the moment to go out and buy some like in the plastic bottles, and I hate that so much. But I'm really trying to I'm gonna make my own instead, which is obviously just better for so many reasons. Yeah, so that's definitely an area that I'm still producing waste in, and that's kind of the inspiration behind the brand to kind of I want to stop producing waste in that area.
Yeah, I love that. And I think everyone that I talk to has a very similar answer, that it seems like a really great way to reduce your waste and also to benefit from, a lot of the times, a cheaper product to save some money, is to just make it at home. And I think that
Hmm.
if we can find a good balance of making X number of products at home and then supporting companies like the vegan soap company and buying, say, your hand shampoo, or rather your soap bar.
Yeah.
But and I think it's so hard to find that balance at first. Like, I know I still struggle with the idea of a good moisturizer.
Mm.
Like, I started out when I went plastic free, I was making, because I work with essential
Hmm.
oils, and I was making kind of like, I want to say, an oil infused moisturizer, but it wasn't cream based and it just wasn't working with my skin.
Mm.
So I still struggle with, I buy like the doTERRA moisturizer and then sit there and cut it open and like rinse it out so I can recycle it. But it's kind of a pain in the ass. And
Yeah.
it's like you said, it's so hard, even when you've been in the struggle for a little bit, to get there. But I'm starting to get there, and I think I'm formulating a little bit of a better moisturizer for my skin. But like, again, always going to be kind of the compromise we have to make. And
Yeah.
at least we're getting there, right? And we can feel good about that.
For sure. I always think about this, like it's great that people like us want to kind of make these changes, but I think the biggest impact is going to be from businesses kind of either putting like a filling station in their shop or something so you can just go and top it up, stuff like that, changes that like make it easier for people. I think that's got to be what happens.
Yeah, and I think that bulk is such a powerful thing. Like that has honestly enabled us to go relatively plastic free. And I think that for the most part, you're totally right. Just making it accessible to people is going to be how it goes. We just got to get there, you know?
Yeah, hopefully it'll just keep getting easier.
Absolutely. So, on your website, you mentioned that, and we've been talking about this a lot, that the vegan soap company is really kind of trying to make the sustainable lifestyle easier. And you and I have talked so much so far about like it's very challenging. So, what would be some of your biggest hurdles that you've encountered, whether that be to going vegan or to changing your and reducing your waste from your body care? What is the biggest hurdle you feel like you've come up against, and how have you compromised or gotten around it to come out on the other side victorious, we'll say?
I think, do you want it like in terms of the business or in terms of personal?
In anything. I would love to hear both if you want to go into both of them.
Yeah, sure. I think business-wise, I remember when, because we still haven't launched yet, we're kind of in the preparing phases, but we used to get a lot of packages when we were kind of trying out different suppliers, and I think that kind of really, I was like, okay, so this is kind of a lot of stuff that is getting sent to my house, and I was thinking like it would be much better to do all of this from the UK because I really don't want to have that massive carbon footprint from shipping from, like, it might be cheaper to get something from China, but I'd rather get it from somewhere in the next city, like, so I think that's probably the biggest impact there. So just trying to find suppliers in the UK that do what the overseas ones do, that's been hard, but it is all increasing. So that's good. But in terms of personal, um, I think yeah, veganism is probably the hardest thing because we've got a zero waste shop in my university, so that's great. You can go there and then fill up on like get bulk, whatever you want really, which is great. But it's just the kind of finding substitutes for meat and dairy, but trying to find ones that are packaged well is kind of almost impossible. So yeah, I think there's still a lot of things to overcome really.
Yeah, and I think that that's another, again, like there's just the idea of making what for you is the better choice is just it's the best option right now. And like you said about going vegan, it is such a huge reduction in your environmental footprint. But then again, as you mentioned, so many vegan things are packaged in plastic or even straight up like landfill, which is the kind of plastic aluminum mix. And then again, you just have to kind of make the decision, like if you are buying a ton of that stuff all the time and none of it is the kind of really clear plastic you can rinse and recycle, then maybe you make a switch to just a plastic free, or like you decided to just go vegan and to just be conscious about it. So making the decision for whatever works best for you right now in this market where it's near impossible to, be perfect, it's just the best option. And I love to hear that, even when we make those switches, that you are still thinking about like, oh, there's still plastic happening here and how can I kind of reduce that or just be mindful of it in the first place. So then my next question is kind of how I would love to hear about why and how you started the vegan soap company. So you're running it kind of out of your home right now, from what I hear. And I would love to just hear about some of the silly challenges you've encountered, or if it's been what you expected, or if it's been totally weird, and if there was crazy things that you've encountered that are challenging to do out of your home, starting a small business, especially an eco-minded one. I would love to hear what that's like for you.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I'm actually at university as well, so it's kind of hard to balance both of that. But it just adds to the challenge, which is good. I think, yeah, the funny thing is, I started it and registered it before I'd even ever made soap myself.
I love
So
that.
it's really, yeah, I don't know if I should be telling people that.
No, that is straight up badass. I love that. You had a view and you're going to make it happen.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is something that I want to do, so I'll make it work. Luckily, I think it's come out quite well. But it's just, yeah, a lot of kind of research and development into the best ways to do that. I think the thing we're thinking about right now is just making it kind of um, like reducing all of the horrible chemicals that you find in a lot of soap making, which has been really hard to kind of making natural soap, but that's kind of up in the priorities right now. But yeah, it's been good. It's just been kind of just preparing for launch, so interacting with people on social media and thinking about how we're going to get funding for it, applying for grants and everything because it's expensive, and I didn't realize how expensive it was, but it is. But yeah, it's a challenge, but I like it because I guess it never really stops. There's always more you can do, and yeah, I like having the freedom of it. I can decide to do whichever fragrances I want and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so great. And I also love that you are in university right now. I am actually also in university, and I think that it definitely adds an added challenge to kind of everything. But I think that it also is an interesting space to be in because being a young woman in education right now and having all the other people around us, I'm sure you get questions from friends about like what you're doing and why you're living this way. And then there's also lots of friends probably that support you. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think like at university you really do get different types of people, and it's kind of very easy to either just go out all the time and like stay at home and watch movies and play video games and everything, as like a lot of my flatmates do, and then you get the other people that kind of just do everything. I think there's kind of a happy balance between that, and I like to think that this is kind of a good use of my time because I'm trying to look at the bigger impact and kind of reduce a problem in society. So yeah, I'm not to big myself up or anything. Like it's great if you want to play video games, but yeah, I think it's good. I think being at university kind of they offer so much as well in terms of societies for like people starting businesses, and it's a great place to do it because I feel like I've got less of the risk. Like I don't have a mortgage to pay right now or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're young, and starting things when we're young allows us to have lots of time to grow. And I think that that's just so filled with hope and wonderful and insanely exciting. So, I want to hear where and when we can start buying products from the vegan soap company and kind of what direction you're moving in with your products, what your different fragrances are. And that actually leads me, I'm going to curtail that for a second, and I would love to ask you about fragrances. So which fragrances you guys use? You mentioned you're kind of leading towards a more natural based fragrance slash organic slash healthy soap. Is that where you guys are at now, or where are you in that transition?
No, we're definitely not there now because kind of I just got started and didn't really think about as much as I should have kind of fragrances. And I saw your video earlier today about kind of to avoid fragrance oils and everything, and I was like, oh damn, oh no. But so I think at the moment it's looking like we're probably going to have two ranges. We're going to have like the more natural kind of it's so that it smells from the things we put in it, so whether that's like dried fruit or anything like that, and then we'll probably have the range that we've got now, which is from fragrance oils. I'm just trying to find the list on my phone right now. I can't find it, but we've got a mix of kind of natural ones like mango and chamomile, and then we've got kind of more quirky ones like baked apple pie and coffee and cinnamon swirl and like that sort of thing that you don't normally get. Yeah, because I kind of wanted to show people that vegan doesn't mean boring as well. I think that's a big misconception. Yeah. You just in the future, just going into other kind of products like shampoo bars and conditioner bars and moisturizer. But yeah, starting slow. We're gonna hopefully launch in like July.
That's super exciting. And I think I definitely would love to speak to the whole, again, like, gosh, it's like the freaking perfect theme that's developed here that you really have to like make compromises sometimes. And there are going to be people out there, and I'm not going to lie, there are occasions where my fiance loves him some synthetic fragrance. Like he would so be down with that baked apple pie. And again, you just gotta cut your losses and figure out what you like. And so I encourage all of my listeners to just try all of the different soaps that you guys are offering and figure out what they like. And maybe right now, especially if you're someone that likes to smell really good, it's okay if you're still living in the world of synthetic fragrances. That's totally chill. You just got to make cuts elsewhere and eat organic, and your net consequence will be totally positive. And I think that's just where we're at right now. And the most important thing is supporting companies like you guys, because at the end of the day, even if you are using crazy weird packaging, which you're not, and even if you were using a ton of synthetic fragrances, which you're not, you're still local, you're still being mindful, and just paring it down where we can is so valuable and so important. So I just commend you so much. So when you guys launch in July, I think you said, where are you guys going to be?
So online, we're kind of talking to a lot of vegan slash ethical online marketplaces right now as well to kind of stock our products on there. But other than that, we'll probably be on Etsy and have our own website.
Yeah, Etsy rocks. Etsy is pretty much, I spend way too much time on Etsy, like looking at, there are so many amazing people on Etsy. I need to start stocking Etsy for my different guests on my show. Well, that is so awesome to hear about your journey and about the vegan soap company. And I am so, so glad that we have been able to have you on today.
Fabulous, thank you. Yeah, buy some soap.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will for sure be messaging on Instagram so that we can make sure to let everybody know when you guys launch and remind people that you guys are out there. Claudia is so fantastic, and it's so inspiring to hear stories like hers about women all over the world that are starting eco-friendly businesses. Just like you guys, Claudia and a couple weeks back, Katie are just starting where they're at. They're starting to build businesses that are conscious and eco-minded. And even if they're not perfect yet, they're trying to get there, and that's what counts. And supporting women that are doing these things is so, so important if we're all to move towards sustainable lives together. You guys absolutely rock. I adore you. Be sure to follow if you're listening on Spotify, and subscribe if you are listening on Apple Podcasts. Please, please, please. Also, if you want to do me a solid, leave a review. Leaving a review and a rating helps me to figure out what you guys want to hear. And also, if I'm giving you the real tools and inspirations you need to start supporting eco-friendly businesses and to make the switch to a more sustainable lifestyle yourselves. I really want to be an asset to you guys, so let me know what you need. I can't wait to sit down and chat with you next week. Sending you love and good vibes. See you later.